So with the stock market in disarray, people are asking me all the time, Tony, hey, what do we do in this environment with, looking at crypto and should we go to gold? Should we go to Bitcoin? Should we get some other, crypto token? So what if it's not just Bitcoin? What if it's not just gold? What if it's something that's kind of a combination of the two of them? And it's something I want to open your eyes to today on this video that really helps people look at the digital assets in a whole different way that might make you think about some things for your own portfolio. Whether you have $100 to invest or you have $100 million to invest, it's really pretty much the same answer. And so I want to talk to you today about what's happening in the stock market, what's happening with Bitcoin, and what's happening with gold. But before I jump into the specifics, let's talk about what JP Morgan just said recently about Bitcoin, right? People are saying, hey, Bitcoin has been called digital gold, right? And so how is it reacting in this whole thing with the stock market? Well, Bitcoin has largely been down. If you look at all, there's, you go just search, Bitcoin and stock market or, any combination of what's happening with Bitcoin right now. There's a lot of different opinions that it's going to go lower, it's going to go higher. But the fact of the matter is, with all this tariff stuff, Bitcoin has gone down. But what has gone up? Gold has gone up. So in fact, in the last 30 days, I did some numbers and gold has gone up 12% over the last 30 days. And the U.S. stock market has gone down 7%. When you take all this into consideration and look at what JP Morgan said, they made the statement. I have it here on the screen. It says that JP Morgan says Bitcoin's digital gold narrative is under pressure and highlights gold's strength in a debasement trade, which means all they're saying is that, hey, look, with all this market turmoil, you have to look at what's happened with Bitcoin and what's happened with gold at the same time. Gold has gone up, Bitcoin is not in the midst of, kind of market chaos. And so what are people and the experts in the market saying? What are people, talking about out there? Well, they're talking about, I found this article I thought was very interesting, and I'm going to talk for just a minute about it. It says, buying Bitcoin versus gold, which is easier for investors to purchase. So, you can go on Coinbase or Kraken or a number of places and buy Bitcoin and have the Bitcoin in your account in minutes. Well, that's pretty easy. And well, if you're going to buy gold, then you got to go to online gold dealer and buy it. It's a little bit of a process, but not a ton different than buying Bitcoin, but it's still a little bit different. But then you've got to physically store your gold in a safe or keep it in a safe deposit box or wherever you choose to keep it, depending on how much you have. And there are real decisions. So what if you're like a conversation I had with someone this week? I spoke in an event and someone came up to me after that was from a family office, and they're looking at making a substantial investment in gold right now with what's happening in the market. And if they're going to put a ton of money, and I'm not going to talk about numbers, but I mean a lot of money into gold, you got to think about those things. How are we going to store it? Is it going to be in a vault? Is it going to be in our own storage? And so there's all these considerations that you have to think about with gold. And so the comparison in the chart is can be bought and sold in seconds, right? So Bitcoin is saying, it's saying that, yeah, you can own Bitcoin, and gold takes longer, right? And available 24/7. Yep, Bitcoin's 24/7. Transportation, you don't have to transport Bitcoin, you do have to transport gold. And so there's, it could go on, you can see the chart. So there's all these considerations you have to think about if I'm going to buy gold or I'm going to buy Bitcoin. And even Bitcoin, do I leave it in Coinbase or I store it in a wallet? I just want you to think about the fact that, okay, we have this asset that we can own and we have another asset that we can own, but is there yet a third asset that I should consider for my portfolio that could be kind of a combination of the two, that has the strengths of Bitcoin, has the strengths of gold? And their answer to that is yes, there absolutely is. And that is digital gold. You can buy physical gold and own it in digital form. So you own the physical asset, but you also have a digital representation of that asset. And the biggest player in the space right now is a company called Paxos. So Paxos, they say here on the screen, as you see, the safest way to own investment grade gold. So how does this work? You literally go on and you buy the PAXG token, the Pax Gold token, and the PAXG. And you're buying a bar of gold that has been put into a vault that is secured by Brinks. Everybody's seen the Brinks trucks, the guys, go into a bank and they carry out all the money and they have the armed guys there and all that. Well, that's Brinks, right? Well, the same Brinks is the same company that has now morphed herself brilliantly, I think, to be able to play in this digital asset space with gold and other assets, to be a custodian in the vaults, right? So you have a Brinks controlled vault you have an audited vault, and then you also have a vault that is regulated by the organizations like New York Department of Financial Services, NYDFS. And so you have the situation where you have a serialized piece of gold that has basically your name on it, and you can own $20 of that whole piece, or you can own the whole bullion. Obviously, you're going to buy the whole bar. That serial number is tied to your token. You're buying a physical representation of the amount of that bar, either the whole thing or a fraction of it, and it's stored in a vault for you with a serial number on it. It's fully audited, insured, all the things that you want to be careful about for your own investment. And so you can own that, and then you can hold that just like you're holding Bitcoin. It has all the same characteristics of the token asset of Bitcoin. So you can leverage it, you can lend it and earn yield on it, and there's all kind of things you can do with that token, just like you can do with Bitcoin, that you just cannot do with a physical asset. Let's say I go and buy a whole bar of gold, and I store that in my safe at home. Well, it's sitting in my safe, and it's earning me $0, other than the fact of the appreciation of price of gold. Let's say that gold goes up $100. Well, my number per ounce and my gold that I have in my safe, it goes up in value $100 per ounce. But I can't benefit from that appreciation in price with it sitting in my vault. I have to go sell it. Well, if I go sell it, I got to carry that bar of vault, and take it to somewhere, the We Buy Gold guys that you see by the mall or wherever that, buy gold and sell my portion of the gold. And you see how the more you buy, the more complicated this process becomes. You got to sell that gold to capture that price appreciation. Well, if you have it in a digital version, you simply can you get instant liquidity if you want it. So you can go to an exchange, a digital exchange or decentralized exchange, for example, and that supports the PAXG token, and you can swap that PAXG for a US dollar denominated stablecoin like USDC or USDT or PyUSD, and be able to get that money, instantly almost. And so it's just a whole different mindset about owning a digital asset and being able to capture that. So I'm going to talk about another one that I've been watching closely and watching developments, and that's called Kinesis. And Kinesis is another one that they have a token for gold and silver, KAU and KAG respectively, as you see here on the screen. You can get debit cards tied to these digital gold and go spend it. And so, you have these, you actually are owning a real world asset in digital gold, right? You have a physical thing that you own that has tremendous value in gold, right? And that's doing great during this market turmoil. But you have the digital representation that gives you a ton more flexibility and gives you, as it says, diversification, liquidity, instant payments, right? Things that you can do with that digital asset that you just cannot do with the physical version of it, right? And that means you can own silver, you can own gold. In this case, you can buy it in a kilo bar or silver, right? And it gives you all the specifications. And they can sell it to you in different base currencies, from Canadian to Euro or the British pound. And as it says, as you see here on the screen on Kinesis, they are fully audited and securely vaulted. You can read all the details, right? You can click on it and it tells you about how they're stored and where the vaults are and all the things that you might want to dig into on the details for your own investment. And then they also have a stablecoin tied to the dollar as well. But it's just a new mindset, a new way of thinking about owning digital assets and owning crypto, right? And so, we'll continue to do more videos about this, but I just wanted to help make folks aware of thinking about owning these assets in a different way. So just like the benefits we talked about with Bitcoin, all the versions of owning a digital asset, you don't have to worry about storage and shipping and all that stuff, right? Somebody's storing it for you and you don't have to worry about that. But you have a digital representation of that tied to that serial number in that vault. So different mindset. I think this is a trend we're going to see drastically continue. And so I hope you enjoyed the video, and that's it for now.